Hi all you music lovers, my name is Andy Rodriguez, also known as the Blackspinner. And if you're new to my channel, what I do here is that I go through my record collection. I am going through them in alphabetical and in chronological order. And today we are on the letter S. And this is the part 2 of the letter S. I did part 1 a few days ago. You can go ahead and catch that if you haven't caught it yet. That detailed the beginning of the letter S with bands like Bob Seger and Santana and the Sex Pistols and the Scorpions and a couple of others in between. And today we're going to be doing the letter S part 2. Now part 2 is also going to have a few blocks of several bands in this lot here. And please, if you're new to our channel, please subscribe. And also go ahead and leave a comment and I'll get back to you. And maybe we can have some chit chat back and forth about bands and about music. And I'll be going through each album. And I will also talk about a couple of key tracks on each album that I think that are essential. And that tracks that I believe that everyone should know. And if you're not familiar with them, maybe you can go ahead and stream them on whatever device you stream them, and maybe you'll be a fan of the song, and you might be a bigger fan of the bands that I'm about to talk about. So let's get started. We're going to get started with part 2 of the letter S, and we're going to start off with a folk duo that began in the early 60s. They are out of New York City. I think we all know who we're talking about. We're talking about Simon and Garfunkel with their debut album Wednesday Morning at 3 a.m. Simon and Garfunkel is known for their folk music, but this might be their debut. This might be their only album, which is their debut album, that sounds like a traditional folk album. Later on, in the next additional releases, they're going to add more instruments and more sounds and a little bit more well produced. This one has more covers than what we're used to from a Simon and Garfunkel album. This also has several songs of gospel songs, and not just folk, but also, like I said, gospel songs and a little bit of soul as well. Let's go with "You Can Tell the World" is a good song. "Bleecker Street" was a Paul Simon original. So was "Sparrow," and this also has we're familiar with Simon and Garfunkel. We are familiar with the song, with the Sounds of Silence. But here, it is done acoustically. So we'll talk about the other version that they all know and love later on in the albums. But in this one, it's done acoustically. And they also do "The Times They Are Changing" and "Go Tell It to the Mountain," which of course is a gospel standard. And this is a pretty good album. It's totally different from what you think of by Simon and Garfunkel, just by the acoustic version of "The Sounds of Silence" alone. And next we have, Simon and Garfunkel, "The Sound of Silence." This will have the version that we all know and love, the one that's a little bit more electric, I guess. It's not as acoustic, with a lot more music to it, and this one is produced differently because it's got horns, it's got keyboards, and they really did add a lot more music compared to their debut one. And this one was done in '65. This has "The Sound of Silence," like I said, and one of my favorite songs by Simon Garfunkel, Kathy's song. I love that song so much. It is so good. In fact, they've got a little bit of the lyrics here where it says, and you see, I have come to doubt all that I once held as true. I stand alone without beliefs, because the only truth I have is you. Oh, such a good line. Also, "Angie's" a pretty good song. Richard Cory, "Most Peculiar Man," and "I Am a Rock." That's a really good song. Right here, Paul Simon's writing more and more. And he's starting to get very much comfortable in it. And of course, you've got Garfunkel there with his higher voice when Paul Simon is a lower register. So what we have coming up is Parsley, Sage, Rosemary, and Thyme by Simon and Garfunkel. I was doing a little bit of reading on this, and a lot of people compared this to, the Beatles had Revolver, the Beach Boys had Pet Sounds, and they say that this was equivalent to it. I don't think it was close, but it's a good album. But you can't compare things as this being like one of the greatest of all time. No, I don't think so. But the songs are good. Don't get me wrong. Scarsborough Fair, Tactical is good. Patterns, Homeward Bound is one of their most beloved songs. The 59th Street Bridge song, Feeling Groovy, is a really good song too. It's also done by others in the later 60s that made it a bigger hit. The Dangling Conversation is an interesting song as well. A Simple Desolatory Fill Pick was good as well. And for Emily, Wherever She May Roam. And this ends with the 7 o'clock news, Silent Night, which is a harrowing song. They're singing Silent Night, the Christmas Carol, and they have the evening news going on in the background. And they have the evening news going on, detailing what's going on in Vietnam, what's happening here in America with protests and people being killed, and it's just a weird thing to listen to the evening news from 1965, and they're singing Silent Night in the background, and they intertwine. If you find that fascinating, which I found it very fascinating, I thought it was really, really cool idea. Go ahead and give it a listen. It's pretty neat. And then after that, Simon and Garfunkel will make a soundtrack to a great movie of the 60s, and it's even a great movie now. If you all haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. The Graduate with Dustin Hoffman. Dustin Hoffman is young in this one. What the premise of this movie is, Dustin Hoffman is dating a girl that is his age, and he starts having an affair with her mother. But the soundtrack is just fantastic. The soundtrack is done all solely by Simon Garfunkel, and of course her name is Mrs. Robinson. You're not trying to seduce me, are you, Mrs. Robinson? Oh. The Sounds of Silence appears again. Mrs. Robinson, of course. Scarsborough Fair. If you're going to Scarsborough Fair, April Come She Will, and a couple of songs repeat throughout the movie, but it's a really good movie. I really enjoyed it. And after that, we talked so much about what they've already done, but they haven't even broken out yet. But they break out now with Bookends by Simon and Garfunkel. Oh yeah, Bookends is a great album from beginning to end. This will have songs like America, which was another beloved song by them, Old Friends, Faking It, Punky's Dilemma, and again, Mrs. Robinson comes out, but Mrs. Robinson will come out and it's full content. And the Graduate soundtrack, sometimes it's cut out in pieces according to the movie. So here, if you want to hear Mrs. Robinson, Bookends is the place to hear it, because everything is done, the way that we're used to it and used to hearing it on the radio. And this ends with At the Zoo, which At the Zoo is a really good composition by Paul Simon. Also, if you're a fan of the Bangles from the 80s, they had that big hit, Walk Like an Egyptian. Well, there was a soundtrack that they had done a song for called Less Than Zero, and A Hazy Shade of Winter, they do a cover, but the original song is from Simon and Garfunkel. And check it out. I really enjoyed Simon Garfunkel's version more, even though the Bangles song was really good, and I didn't know it was a cover until years ago, But that soundtrack, Less Than Zero, if I go through my cassettes, I'll talk about it. It's very interesting. It's got the Bangles and Slayer and Poison and LL Cool J all on one cassette. It's pretty neat. And we go to their last album that they will do together, before they break up in 1970. This also won a Grammy for Album of the Year. Bridge Over Troubled Water. This album is so good, and let's talk about why Bridge Over Troubled Water. Just that the title track is fantastic. El Condor Pasa, Cecilia, Keep the Customer Satisfied, The Boxer, and they do a cover of Bye Bye Love. A cover by one of their heroes, which is the Everly Brothers. You know, that's why they started making music, was because of the Everly Brothers. The Everly Brothers also being a duo at the time. So they break up, and less than a year they release Greatest Hits. This is a great Simon and Garfunkel compilation. If you don't want to get all the albums, if you just want the hits, this is a really good one, and they do not disappoint. And what is fantastic, it's not just a compilation, because you know they released this only a mere 1 year after it's released, but they have songs on here that were done live. It's not just the regular renditions. The songs like Mrs. Robinson, The Boxer, the 59th Street Bridge, The Sound of Silence, Homeward Bound done live, America done live, Kathy's Song done live. Yeah, this is really good because of the fact that it's not just a straight ahead greatest hits, but they do add that live flavor into it. And to cap off, to bookend the Simon and Garfunkel's Ding Ding Ding, another double live album, which you know how much I love these. Double live album by Simon and Garfunkel. This was done in 1980 or 1981. It was a free concert at Central Park. There's the inside of it. This was back when HBO used to do music concerts, and this has all the hits, and not just all the Simon Garfunkel hits, but also several songs by Paul Simon when he went solo, and you can get to hear what they would sound like if they were given the Simon and Garfunkel treatment. And those songs were like Me and Julio Down by the Schoolyard, I'm Still Crazy After All These Years, Coma Chrome, and Slip and Sliding Away, and 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover. Those were big hits for Paul Simon in the 70s, and then you know you get to hear him here with Art Garfunkel, and that ends my Simon and Garfunkel. I've only got one by this band here. These guys were a powerful band in the 90s, one of the great alternative bands when everything was coming out of Seattle. These guys came out of, guys and gal came out of Chicago, and this is the only album I have by them. I got the rest of their stuff on CD, but I'm talking about the Smashing Pumpkins. About this one. This was released in 2014. This was called The Moments of an Elegy. This, of course, is without Darcy, but this does have everybody else in it, just without Darcy. And the album's pretty good. I hadn't heard it in a while, so I heard it not too long ago, but you know what? Interesting. I thought that James Chamberlain was on drums on here. James Chamberlain being the classic drummer for them, but this has Tommy Lee from Motley Crue playing drums for Smashing Pumpkins. Interesting. But the songs are pretty good. You know, it still has the crushing guitars, and I know a lot of people complain about Billy Corgan's voice. I love Billy Corgan's voice. I love a voice that's a little odd, a little bit high-pitched. I know a lot of people don't like that, but I do. It gives the songs more of a... When I hear vocals done completely different or higher pitch or nasally, to me, personally, to my ears and my mind and my heart, it gives it more of a personal sound to it. What I have next is just one by Billy Squier, Signs of Life. This one was not that well done. I bought it because I liked his first two, but this one I did not like too much, and not to the point to even go through them really. Maybe all night long and reach for the sky. But yeah, that's about it. And here, I've been going through a lot of the Beatles, their solo stuff. I got quite a bit of Lennon and quite a bit of Harrison, but I only have one Ringo Starr, which is Ringo, which I believe this was his most commercially successful one. This was done in 73. And the thing about this album, it's got all the Beatles participating in it differently. Now, George Harrison does have his hands on almost every single song. But this starts off with I'm the Greatest, which was written by John Lennon. And John Lennon sings backup vocals and also adds guitar to that song. And also George Harrison is also on guitar. And this also has one of my favorite songs, Photograph, by Ringo, which was written by George Harrison and Ringo Starr. And there's a song on here called Sunshine Life for Me, and his backing band is The Band with Robbie Robertson and everybody else in the band, Levon Helm and Rick Danko and Garth Hudson. They all lend a hand for that song. That song's okay. And also he's got a song on here called You're 16, which I don't like too much. It's kind of weird. But on side 2, there's a song called 6 O'Clock, which was written by Paul and Linda McCartney. And Paul and Linda also sing backing vocals. And Paul has his hands on all the instruments, playing everything he can, playing piano and synthesizer and strings. And, he's conducting this, conducting that. But it's an alright song. But what the song I did like on here too was Devil Woman. That was a good song. But, a lot of big stars always lend a hand to Ringo Starr's 70 albums. That's the only one I have by him. And we get into a band that, it's a tough band to describe. Because the two songwriters, the lead songwriters, will have interchangeable musicians throughout their careers. But the first maybe 3 or 4 albums was done by a set band, even though they were mostly studio musicians. Let's get started. Steely Dan. This will be their debut album, Can't Buy a Thrill. And the thing with Steely Dan that I have found with them is that they put so many of their good songs on side 1, and then side 2 seems to lag a little bit. And that seems to be the pattern that I see from them. But nonetheless, let's get started. Debut album, side 1 starts off with Do It Again, Dirty Work, Kings, Midnight Cruiser. Midnight Cruiser is such a good song, and only a fool would say that. I really like Dirty Work on here. It's a really good ballad. But this does start off side 2 with Reeling in the Years. That has such a great rock rhythm to it, along with like a soulful harmonies to it, and that's what I like about that song. And Brooklyn owes the Charmer Under Me was an alright song too, but the side 1 on this was really good. And then after that, their second album, Countdown to Ecstasy, and again they come right out of the gates on side 1 with Bodhisattva. Bodhisattva, please take me by the hand. Bodhisattva. Your Gold Teeth, The Boston Rag, and Razor Boy. But this on side 2 has one of my favorite Steely Dan songs, and that is Mild School. Mild School, if you never heard it, stream it. It's fantastic. The horns, the guitars, the storytelling, it's just great. Showbiz Kids is also good. But yeah, this is a really good album too. Just that, side 2 doesn't compare to side 1. It'd be great if they could do that. And what I have next by Steely Dan is Pretzel Logic. This one's really good. I enjoy it. There's the inside of it with the guys. And the songs on here, Ricky, don't lose that number. Night by Night. Any Major Dude will tell you. Barrytown. And then side 2, again, it gets a little, it loses steam. It just doesn't. I hate to say that because I like these guys. I really do. It's just that side 2 kind of brings me down sometimes. But does not bring me down on this next album. On this next album, this is my second favorite Steely Dan. It used to be my favorite, but now it's number 2. Katie Lied. Katie Lied is a really good album from beginning to end. Let's talk about why. Let's go. It starts off with Black Friday, Bad Sneakers, and a Pina Colada, my friend. Rose Darling, Daddy Don't Live in That New York City No More. And Dr. Wu. Are you with me, Dr. Wu? And side 2, this does have Everyone's Gone to the Movies. Your Gold Teeth Part 2, Gold 1 was on Part 1 was on the album before Chain Lightning and Any World, and Throw Back the Little Ones. So this is a more consistent album than the others that I spoke about from beginning to end. And what we have next is Steely Dan's The Royal Scam. This is a weird album. I will admit it. This album's pretty weird. It's a little spooky at times. Let's go through the songs. Kid Carmeline, The Caves of Altamira, Don't Take Me Alive was good, and The Fizz. On side 2, Haitian Divorce and The Royal Scam. A lot of people like this as being their favorite album by them. This might be number 3. No, it might be number 4 on my list for Steely Dan. But this is kind of a weird album that you really have to sit and really pay attention to. And talk about an album that you really need to sit and pay attention to is my favorite Steely Dan album. And the reason why you have to really sit and pay attention is because there's so many changes in this music. It goes from one beat to another, from one number to another, and it just flows. This album is just great. This is my favorite Steely Dan today. Asia. From beginning to end, this is well crafted. And also it might be well crafted as well because this one is one of the albums that is completely full with studio musicians. Everyone has their parts, and Walter Becker and Donald Fagen just piece it together and make it for a great album. Let's get started. Black Cow. So drink your big black cow and get out of here. I was watching a documentary. What Black Cow is, it's some kind of milkshake up in the north, specifically in the New York, Connecticut area. And he was meeting his girlfriend there, and she was breaking up with him. So that's what the song Black Cow is about. Asia, Deacon Blues, Peg, Home at Last. I got the News and Josie. I read them all. This might be in my top 20 when I go through Blackspinner's top 20. This might be on there. I don't think this is going to be outside looking in. I think this will actually make it. And next I have is Gotcho by Steely Dan. I enjoyed this one, maybe not as much as others. I don't listen to it as much as I listen to others, and I really should. Songs on here, Babylon Sisters. I like the way that's Hey 19, Gotcho, and My Rival are good songs. But especially the standout track on here is Hey 19. And what I have is my last one that I have by Steely Dan is Greatest Hits. It is a compilation, and it is it doesn't open, but it is a double, which is great. And this has, if you don't want to go through all the Steely Dan albums, which I would understand, but their greatest hits, this is something that everybody should listen to or at least have in their home. This is great. Do It Again, Reeling the Years, My School, Booty Stuffa, Showbiz Kids, Ricky Don't Lose That Number, Pencil Logic, Here at the Western World, Black Friday, Bad Sneakers, Dr. Wu, and on and on. And one great thing I like about this compilation, I like compilations where they go in order of how they were released so that you can see how much the band has changed and how much they evolved. You know how when they're in order like that, and that's how this compilation has it. I know a lot of compilations mix them around, and it's all right. But man, to hear from song 1 to the end, and just to see the changes they've made step by step, it's great. It's great to listen to. And we leave Steely Dan and we go into the world of the mid-60s, where this band had one of the biggest hits in the 60s, and maybe even one of the biggest hits of all time. Talk about Steppenwolf, album Born to Be Wild. We've all heard that song in movies, commercials, radio, just everywhere. We've all been exposed to Born to Be Wild. Here's the back of it. But this is a really good album. This is really good hard rock of like 66 or 67 when this was released. Let's go to the song Suki Suki. I like that song. Everybody's next to one, Hoochie Coochie Man, which is a standard song by now. Hoochie Coochie Man, Born to Be Wild, and then on side B, The Pusher. That's a good song, The Pusher. The Girl I Knew, and The Ostrich. And some of these songs, like The Pusher, they stretch it out for about almost 6 minutes. And the instrumentation and the playing here is fantastic. That's a really good album to listen to. If you're not familiar with it, stream it. And the next one that I have by Steppenwolf is Steppenwolf at Your Birthday Party. This one's not as successful as the one before, or as good, I would admit that. But it's in my collection, and I'm going to talk about everything I have. That's what this is for. I'm not going to skip around anything. Not too many songs on here that I want to say, hey, go look the song up. But it's part of my collection, and here it is. And I'm going to finish this episode off with a block of another singer. We have talked about him briefly when we were talking about Jeff Beck, because he was the lead vocals on the first two Jeff Beck albums. And he made a big name for himself then, and then with the Faces, and then as a solo artist up into the early 90s, and he's still going today. And I've never seen him in concert, and he was going to come to concert here in Houston. He was going to have a package tour along with Cheap Trick, and I've never seen either one of them. I've never seen Cheap Trick or Rod Stewart, and we were going to go, my wife and I, but COVID-19 happened and a lot of cancellations, which, hey guys, let's stay home, let's stay safe so that we can get all those concerts back ASAP, right? So I hope these people, these artists that are not being able to tour this year because of COVID, hopefully they're in recording studios making new music at least, right guys? Maybe they'll surprise us with new music, but let's get started with this. Let's go, Rod Stewart. This will be his second release, Gasoline Alley. Here's the back of it. Rod Stewart, the albums that I have are from the early 70s, mid 70s, where mainly his music was rock or folky, and he was a good interpreter of other people's music. And before he went a little bit more danceable songs, but the songs on here are really great. Country Comforts, Cut Across, Shorty, Cut Across, You're My Girl, and he does do several covers that he makes it sound so good, and Gasoline Alley, and It's All Over Now, which is another good song by him. And next we have his solo breakout album, which is Every Picture Tells a Story. I had to find this one again because I had traded it or sold it or did something, and I was looking through my records to listen to it. I couldn't find it, so I had to go find it again, and I had a hard time finding it, and I was very surprised, which will teach me not to do that again. Here's the back of it. The songs on here are just top notch. Madeline Wynn, the title track, Every Picture Tells a Story. That's all right, Mama. Reason to Believe, which is a really good song, Reason to Believe. And of course, the big hit on this album that made her solo career was Maggie May. And Maggie May is on here, and it's great, and I love that song. Every time I hear it, I enjoy it. I can never hear too much of it. And also, he's got a cover of a Temptation song on here called I Know I'm Losing You, and it's sung in a folk rock fashion, and it's wonderful. And next I have A Night Out on the Town. I don't know if this had multiple album covers, because I've seen it like this, and I've seen it like this. I don't know. I guess it's whatever the person wanted. The songs on here, Tonight's the Night, which was a big hit for Rod Stewart, and I love that song. The first cut is The Deepest, which was originally done by Cat Stevens, and done several times by other artists like Sheryl Crow and others, but I've always liked the Rod Stewart version, because I enjoy Rod Stewart's voice. Fool for You, The Killing of Georgie, Part 1 and 2. If you've never heard The Killing of Georgie, it's it tells the story of a friend of his who was a gay man, and his parents kicked him out because he was gay. So he left home to go live in New York City in the 70s, and he met other people like him, and he started to have a good time. He started to really enjoy life as him coming out as a gay man, but he gets killed at the end. And Rod Stewart's, the way that he tells the story and the way that his voice tells the story, it really is very heartbreaking. The Ballad Trap, Pretty Flamenco, these are really good songs. This is a really good album. But the songs that really stand out to me on this is Tonight's the Night and The Killing of Georgie, Part 1 and 2. And then, which I found this one not too long ago. I'd never seen it before, which is a compilation of his early 70s hits. And I really enjoyed this one. This one delves in a little bit deeper. And I like the album cover with the glass, which is called Sing It Again, Rod. And the songs on here are greatest hits, Reason to Believe, You Wear It Well, Madeline Wynn, Handbags and Glad Rags, Maggie May comes out again, Street Fighting Man, which is a cover of a Rolling Stones song, which I enjoy the Rolling Stones song version more. Twisting the Night Away is fun on here as well. I Know I'm Losing You, and Gasoline Alley. Sing It Again, Rod. That's a good compilation by him. And this one is just as good. Him right there in the mid-70s, Footloose and Fancy Free, Rod Stewart. I really enjoy this album. I heard this the other day at work, and Hot Legs, which was a big hit for him. You're in My Heart, You Keep Me Hanging On, and I Was Only Joking. This was really good. This is a good album by him. And last but not least, in part 2 of the letter S, is Rod Stewart's greatest hits. This one, it might be a rerun of what I just talked about, but I remember back when I was in high school, I was part of the Columbia House where I could get all these CDs, and this was one of them, and I really enjoyed it. And even though I have that other Sing It Again, Rod, I wanted this one. I just wanted this one just because it was very important to me. This has all the greatest hits that I've already talked about several times. So that concludes my letter S part 2. I really hope that you enjoyed it. I'm going to have to need 2 more parts to finish S. I'm going to have a whole episode for Bruce Springsteen, and then we will do the tail end of the S's with bands like Styx and like Striper and others. So please join me for those up and coming episodes. They'll be coming out very soon. I know between part 1 and part 2, the letter S, it was quite a bit long. I know it was only 4 days, but that's kind of long for me. If you look through all my videos, I've been doing them at a pretty good pace. Hey, well, thanks a lot for joining me. Thanks a lot for hanging out with me. I really enjoy going through my records with you guys and sharing what I have and talking to you all about music. I really enjoy it. That's a highlight that I go through for myself and for you guys. And please join us for part 3, I guess. And thanks a lot. I really do appreciate y'all. Go ahead and subscribe to my channel. And also leave a comment. And take care of yourselves. And also keep rocking. And happy 4th of July, everybody. Let's celebrate our independence by staying at home. And thinking about the ones we love with text and phone calls. And, good thoughts to our country. Thanks a lot, guys.